It pays to go green when designing buildings and cities, but unlike a number of American and European cities, the incentives in Asia are often few. Some governments are promoting this kind of architecture. In Taiwan, for example, buildings do have to meet certain green standards. Here in Hong Kong, the administration is considering enacting energy efficiency regulations. Max Connop is director with Aedas, the #4 architectural design house in the world, with the bulk of their staff right here in Asia. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
How popular is, I see the buildings going up around me. There's more glass. Some of them have solar panels. I mean, it's a far cry from where we were, a decade or two ago. But does it really pay for companies to go green and think about, sustainability when they're putting up a building and they're trying to maximize gross square feet?
Absolutely. I mean, Sunny Bay Station, by the MTR station out in Lantau. To give you just a simple demonstration of that, by you making an open-air, naturally ventilated station with a fabric roof, we save the client 60% on the initial cost of installation of all the plant, the electric, the mechanicals, and we can offer a saving of 65% on the annual energy consumptions.
Interesting.
So that takes it straight back to the client.
Just for the people outside Hong Kong who may not be familiar with our transport network, we're talking about the Sunny Bay Disneyland Lantau Station portion of the mass transit railway system. That was somewhat unique in itself, though, wasn't it? It's located by the sea, so you could take advantage of prevailing, offshore winds coming in to actually provide some of the cooling. I mean, you benefited from that. Okay, you couldn't do this on Queens Road Central, I wouldn't think.
No, you couldn't. But then there are issues with an urban setting of using recycled materials, looking at passive and active ventilation systems, bringing in natural light into the core of the building. That's very important. Looking at bringing green vegetation into the building so you can reduce CO2 within the building, checking for carbon dioxide emissions within the building and for the occupants. So that gives people a much better sense of the space they work in and a sense of well-being.
Are they cheaper to build, or do they like a Prius? The Toyota Prius costs more because it's a hybrid car, but it pays back with fuel efficiency over the years. Which way does it work?
A difficult question, but I think what you have to do is look at it by green initiative, and you look at the life cycle costs. So you look at the initial cost of the installation, the cost payback to the client, how long that will be able to operate, and then once you have that equation, you know whether loading that green idea into the building is actually beneficial to the client, or it's just greenwashing. They can say, okay, we'll put in the photovoltaics, we'll put in the green initiatives for the plant and recycled materials, but you have to look at how they perform over the length of the building's life, and with that, then you have a better idea of the cost savings you can offer the client.
I just spent a few days in Kyoto, Kobe, Osaka, Japan, and I noticed that some of the newer structures were made with like recycled plastics that were chipped into fragments and then reformed into paneling, like a recycled green form of drywall or something like that. I'm pretty loath to see that in places like Hong Kong. Are we a little bit behind in terms of like using the deployment of alternative materials, or is that something which is gaining currency?
I would have said 5 years ago, extremely difficult, but there is a growing momentum now, and you're actually finding that the difficulty is 5 years ago you could find materials, but you'd find them around the globe, and then bringing them over here to use them in Hong Kong was always difficult, because then you're increasing the carbon footprint. Thankfully now we have a lot more regionally sourced materials, and that is gaining momentum. The more buildings that are done in the green way, the easier it's going to be for everybody.
Right. In some ways, then the Sunny Bay project is just one of many which your company's been involved in. I was surprised to learn that Chater House and a lot of the iconic buildings around Hong Kong, the refits and the refit and renovations were done with your cooperation. The MTR is arguably a government-linked company, though, so maybe it's a little easier to build a relationship. If a Li Shaoqi from a Henderson or a Li Ka-shing from this company, Shandong, comes to you, are they interested? Are they sincerely, genuinely concerned about building more sustainable infrastructure, or is this something that has to be, administrative-led for the time being?
I think that clients are a growing awareness now that good design is good business, and it's not just about creating iconic status. There is a status of moral obligation to what they're building. We never get a client now from here, China, or anywhere else that doesn't expect LEED accreditation, which is an American accreditation system for green buildings. And most ask us to get the highest grade, and we achieve that for them because they know it's not only a moral obligation, but it also sends a very positive message to tenants.
Finally, I want to talk about the issue of risk here. Because with some of these new applications, some of these new designs, we're talking about new materials and the employment of things which have never been used in construction before. What is the risk factor there? And I don't want to make this is a tenuous link, but years ago people thought asbestos was safe. Guess what happened when they found out the truth? Is there any risk of that with this new technology?
I think there's a danger with anything if you're being experimental at the client's expense, and we would never consider working with a material that didn't have a good track record. And part of that, I mean, that comes from looking at how they perform, their source, their sustainability from that source. So, no, I don't think there is a risk. I think the biggest risk is not doing green buildings.
Okay, and I noticed you have the requisite green tie today to talk about this issue as well. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks a lot.
Director Max Connop from Aedas. Next on the program, when we return, we'll catch you up with what's going on in different parts of the world, and we're waiting for some trade numbers out of Japan. We'll dissect that when we come back.
Looking for winners among small and mid-caps can be a challenge. At OSK, we help you identify those potential leaders.